Okay, it looks like we've got a pretty good group of folks on the call, so thanks everyone for joining us today. Welcome to NEWIEE's latest virtual Ask Me Anything session. My name is Shauna Beeland and I am the Rhode Island Chapter Chair of NEWIEE. I'm honored to be moderating today's Ask Me Anything conversation with Linda George. Today's Ask Me Anything is just one in a series of conversations that NEWIEE is hosting with a number of incredible female leaders in energy and environment. AMA events occur regularly on the second Wednesday of each month, so mark your calendars, and if you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, definitely make sure to head over to NEWIEE.org to get on our list and keep an eye on our calendar and social media channels for future speaker announcements. So before we get to our programming, just have a couple of announcements. On behalf of everyone at NEWIEE, I want to extend a huge thank you to our annual event sponsors, Eversource, First Light, Mass CEC, and Robinson Cole, who not only make our in-person events possible, but support continued NEWIEE programming in this virtual space. The NEWIEE board launched this AMA series at the onset of COVID-19 as a way to provide our members and community with a way to connect with leading women in energy and the environment. And most importantly, give you the chance to ask them about their careers, their area of expertise in the industry, and more. We hope that today's event will be interactive and conversational, so please submit your questions for Linda using the Q&A function in Zoom. I will begin asking them after a short intro. You have the ability to ask questions anonymously, so make sure to do that if you don't want me to read your name out loud. Start thinking about your questions and start sending them my way. One more announcement. Before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that you checked out our website for future AMA guest announcements and other NEWIEE events. Book your calendars now for October 14th for our next AMA event. And now I'm thrilled to introduce Linda George. We are so lucky to have her with us in Rhode Island. Linda was appointed Administrator of the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers in June of 2020. Prior to her appointment, she served as Acting Administrator for the division since the fall of 2019. She was also Deputy Chief of Legal Services for the division and Senior Legal Counsel for the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission. Linda was responsible for overseeing dockets which focused on electric utility regulation, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and water utility regulation. Before that, Linda served as a policy analyst and attorney for the Rhode Island Senate Commission on Environment and Agriculture. She brings 29 years of legal experience to the position. Linda graduated from Dartmouth College with a BA in government and received her JD from Vermont Law School. So with that, we're gonna bring Linda up and get started with some of these fantastic questions that we have. So there you are, Linda. Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon. I hit the, I stopped the video briefly, sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to participate in Ask Me Anything forum. And I have to say, I hope I am up to the challenge to answer anything I'm asked.
Great. Linda, do you want to just start with some intro remarks? Sure. And then I'll start with the very first question.
Sure. What I'd like to say is, for those who don't know me, well, first of all, Shauna, thank you for that brief introduction. For those who don't know me, I've worked in Rhode Island my whole life, starting in private practice, working for the Attorney General's office for several years, focusing on good government, which turned out to be very excellent training and experience for this position. I worked on open meetings and public records. I think I'm a regulator at heart. I like to look at things and figure out how to make them better and how to improve things. And I like to do that by bringing lots of people around the table. I'm a big collaborator. Anybody who knows me knows that. I am a very much the cup is half full kind of person. I always think we can resolve an issue, come to an agreement, find a path forward. I stumbled on my career in energy. I'm thankful for that. And some days when I look at the path that brought me where I am today, I would say it was not one that was clearly defined by me. I just pursued what interested me and took opportunities when they came along, even when they might have been a little inconvenient or I felt like I wasn't ready for them. So I would say of all the things I've done, it's pursue what I like, what engages me, motivates me is things that I feel I'm making a difference, and to always say yes when there's an opportunity. So thank you, and I'm ready to answer questions.
Great. Okay, so our first one is, what are your thoughts for someone who wants to transition from the private sector to the public sector?
Thank you, Shauna. This was a question that I actually received in advance, and I thought about it a lot. And I guess if I want to be honest, I can't really answer to someone who's transitioning from private to public. I don't have that experience. I can explain how I pursued my career. After working in the AG's office, I left that job to stay home and raise my family. So I had to transition back into public sector employment, which I knew I liked. I took a very small job as a committee attorney and did that well, I guess, because they asked me to work part-time at the Senate. And I worked in the fiscal office for several years, doing whatever was asked of me, working on open government issues, good government issues, and fiscal issues. And then I transitioned to the policy office, which was a very good fit for me, doing legal and policy work in environmental and energy areas. So what I would suggest is if you are in the public realm and you're looking for work in, if you're in private industry and you want to work for public, take any opportunity that comes along, apply for all jobs. As many of you know who work in the public realm, job postings, the descriptions are very prescribed. Sean is smiling and laughing. So I would encourage apply for anything that looks even remotely something interesting and see if you can get an interview and not shy away from positions, even if they're a little outside of what you think you want to do. I took a very small job and worked at it with no real plan beyond the small job, but loved what I did, loved the people I worked with. So I would say apply to a lot of jobs and push for interviews. And be open-minded.
So our next question is sort of a burning one that I suspect most people would want to know the answer to. So what's the difference between the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers and the Public Utilities Commission in Rhode Island?
Well, that is an excellent question. And I some days feel I spend half my day explaining to people who don't know the difference. And part of the problem is we're two separate agencies and we share one budget. We also happen to share one building. We're all housed at 89 Jefferson Boulevard in Warwick. You should come visit us. I have an open door policy. If you are in the area and want to have a conversation, I'm happy to do that. But the biggest difference is the Public Utilities Commission is a 3-member panel of commissioners that decide issues in the energy regulatory area, and that's done through dockets. The courts have cases, we have dockets, and it's quasi-judicial. They have ex parte rules. While we're very friendly with the PUC, there's lots of things we can't discuss, anything dealing with an open docket. So they make decisions. Any decision they make can be appealed to the Supreme Court. The Division of Public Utilities and Carriers, I would say my job is essentially ratepayer advocate, and I am responsible for ensuring safe, reliable utility service at just and reasonable rates. That requires, we regulate several utilities. While everyone knows about electric and gas, typically National Grid, electric and gas, there are two small electric utilities in Block Island and Pascoag. And we also regulate 6 water utilities and the Narragansett Bay Commission. But in addition to typical utility work, we are an indispensable party before the PUC, and we represent the ratepayer interest. And in addition, many people don't know this, but we regulate the transportation of people and property. That includes transportation such as ferries, towing companies, rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft, and taxis, as well as limo drivers and transportation to help people get to doctor's appointments. So our jurisdiction is a little broader than the PUC, but we do work with the PUC, and I will continue to let people know what the difference is between the two of them. I get a lot of inquiries that belong with the PUC and vice versa. So the biggest difference is one is quasi-judicial, judge-like, and we are the advocate. We represent the public interest before the commission. I hope that explains the difference.
I think so. So here's another question. Where do you see Rhode Island heading in terms of renewable energy, especially solar?
That's a good question. That's a very relevant question. That's something I focus on a good part of my day on many days. I see that we will continue to be a nation leading state in the area of renewable and clean energy. There are a lot of initiatives. We support a clean energy agenda. The division works on some of those work streams. But I also see that as solar markets transform in Rhode Island, the state solar programs will reflect that transformation. For example, the Renewable Energy Growth Program, one of a financing mechanism program to support solar in Rhode Island, is based on competition. And as solar prices come down, that program helps drive down the cost of solar in Rhode Island. And as the ratepayer advocate, it doesn't get better than that, where we see good solar projects being built at lower cost year over year. So I would say we will continue on our nation-leading efforts in solar development. And as long as I'm administrator, I will look to drive down costs and ensure that we capture most benefits for the solar, not just the energy, but the clean energy, the economic benefits are very important. Solar helps support Rhode Island's economy, and we have a thriving green energy industry, and I think solar is a big part of that. Good question. I liked it.
Do you enjoy working at the division, and how big is your team?
Okay. Yes, I very much enjoy working at the division. I have to say, I am surrounded by very dedicated, hardworking, smart, capable people who are as committed to the regulatory work as I am. And I am always impressed by the above and beyond outstanding work many do, from our consumer agents to our engineers. We have a great legal department, our rate department, which is the bread and butter of looking at rates and costs for utilities and all kinds of programs. Renewables, the one that I mentioned, for example. So yes, I very much enjoy working here. I very much enjoy the team that I'm surrounded by. Is very impressive. And how big is our team? I have 37 employees, and the commission, in contrast, has 10. we're not big agencies, and we get a tremendous amount done, and we have a lot of responsibility. And that's the other reason why I like working here. Every day is different. Every day I feel like I make a difference, and every day I get to work with really terrific people on some very challenging issues.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question from Alice Horahan. What is the most important issue that you expect you'll be dealing with in the next 6 to 12 months?
What is the most important issue? I would say, oh, that's a hard one. There's so many important issues. I would say from the ratepayer advocacy perspective, the lens I look through is cost, ensuring that the programs and the utilities are safe and reliable and are just and reasonable. And just and reasonable means cost effective, that we vetted it, that I am representing all ratepayers. I would say, and that's one very important lens, cost effectiveness. Another very important lens that that is important to me is equity and equity issues. And I'm having a conversation with my staff today about, well, how do you define equity? It means a lot of different things to people. Equity can be that you have a appropriate burden, your utility is, you don't bear a greater burden than you should than other ratepayers. Equity can be that you have access to solar programs. Shauna works on solar programs, that's why I mentioned that one. You have access to good energy efficiency options. You have access to clean, affordable energy. So I can't say there's one program. I would say what's important is the lens with which you look through, the regulatory lens that I look through when vetting dockets and programs and initiatives. Cost and equity are my two big ones.
Okay, so we'll switch away from work right now and ask a more personal question. So how have you navigated raising a family and having such an amazing career so far? I should caveat that.
Well, I would say navigating the family, I would say not always well, not very gracefully, messy at times. I would say it helps to have a fantastic husband who does not sweat the small stuff, and prioritizing. Some days that's the kids are dressed and fed and I got them where they needed to be. I think I've done both. I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, and then I started working part-time, eventually transitioning to full-time. And I've also been a full-time mom with young children. I think both have their stresses. Both are equally as demanding in different ways. But I think you navigate having a family by, for me, it's prioritizing. And then I lowered my standards. And I know I sound like I'm joking, but not really. And prioritizing and lowering your standards go hand in hand. And it also helps to have a good sense of humor and to roll with things. So.
Can you give us an example of lowering your standards?
Oh, absolutely. It's okay once in a while to have peanut butter and jelly and a glass of milk for dinner and a green apple. Give your kids all of that. It's perfectly fine. It's okay if your house is messy and you didn't get the laundry done. It's okay if you aren't as quite prepared as you want to be for something and you go in early in the morning and you scramble a little because you know you can do that. But I would say the biggest thing is looking back on raising my family. I wish I had relaxed a little more and given myself the occasional pat on my back that I was able to accomplish what I did. Many weekends I would go to bed on a Sunday night, think of all the things I didn't get to. And that's just the wrong approach. I should have looked at all the things that I did get to and be a little more positive in that way. Not that I was negative, but lower my standards, prioritize, don't sweat the small stuff, have a terrific husband, and look at all you have. And recognize you can't do it all. You absolutely can't do it all.
Great. So here's a question from Kat Burnham. Kat, I was very excited to see your name. I hope you come back to Rhode Island very, very soon. So
Yes, I'm going to interrupt you. Yes, I say the same. Kat, we miss you.
So Kat's question is, what efforts are you working on at the DPUC that you're especially excited about?
Well, I would say working in collaboration with OER and stakeholders to move a clean energy agenda. And what does that mean? We're looking on how to decarbonize the electricity, try and clean up, have clean heating sector, produce more solar that's more cost effective always, and do all of these initiatives, but in a cost effective manner, in a thoughtful manner, bringing stakeholders around the table. So that's one. And another area that I think is very important that I need to work more on, that I am focusing on, particularly since we've had COVID, is working with low income and moderate income ratepayers to make sure they're not left behind. We have a program to support low income ratepayers where they receive a 25% or 30% discount on their bill. And that's very helpful. And that is supported by all other ratepayers. In 2019, that amounted to $10 million of financial support to low income ratepayers. But not letting low and moderate income ratepayers fall behind includes making sure that they're part of the clean energy agenda. Do they have access to energy efficiency measures? Do they have access to solar? Are they, what are the obstacles if they don't, and how can we address that? We know in the energy efficiency realm, for example, that many low income and moderate income ratepayers live in buildings they don't own, whether they're single family homes or apartments. So it's hard to weatherize and do improvements to those homes that require financial commitments on the part of the owner of the building to do the energy efficiency upgrades. So, and this issue is an issue that's been around for a long time. It's not an easy one. Shauna's nodding her head. It's not an easy one. We haven't found an answer to it, but that we all get around the table, all the stakeholders get around the table and work on that, I think is terrific. And I would say in both those areas, the clean energy agenda and the working to assist low-income ratepayers, we have to start with data-driven analysis. And the PUC has done a great job. They have a docket that they've opened and have vetted data to look at all kinds of factors related to low-income ratepayers and their bills. And we will use that information going forward to see if there are trends or ways we can assist low-income ratepayers. And we also work with National Grid and reach out to them on programs they have to support those who struggle to pay their bills.
So it sounds like the exciting stuff is the hard stuff too.
Yes, yes, yes. I don't think there are challenging problems. There are no simple answers, but you can't walk away from those challenging issues. You have to bring people to the table, collaborate, listen to ideas, and be very open-minded and keep at it.
So here's an anonymous question. So for those who aren't in public service, what is the most effective way for them to encourage more green energy legislation?
I love that question. I would even broaden that to say, if you're not in public service, but you want to be engaged in the energy realm, and I apologize for taking away the question. We need voices of everybody. There's so many ways you can participate. You can go to the legislature has a website and lists legislation. You could do a search by category and follow that legislation and participate by with testimony, simple email, or you can testify in person. It does make a difference. I know this because I worked at the legislature for years. Senators, I can't speak for the reps, but I'm sure they're the same way, but senators love to hear from the public. They want to hear perspectives that people have from the business community, from individuals, from environmentalists, whatever your interest is, however you want to present that, it truly makes a difference. Here at 89 Jefferson Boulevard, you can participate and be engaged by public comment at dockets. We have different ways. You can come and provide public testimony. You can submit it in writing, in a formal letter. You can do it informally through email. Again, we love to hear from the public. And there's also a little known Ratepayer Advisory Board, which was the first piece of legislation I wrote when I worked in the policy office in the energy realm. And you could kind of say that's what got me hooked on energy. How do we get the general public engaged in energy issues? This is an advisory board that the administrator attends, and the membership is prescribed by statute. And I am currently working with the governor's office to revive that Ratepayer Advisory Board. I think it's a great vehicle to vet issues and hear from the public. And if you're not a member of that, that's not a problem either, because members of the public can come and speak on various topics. So stay tuned for the Ratepayers Advisory Board. I'm going to move that from my to-do list from the bottom to the top now, Shauna, because I've just spoken about it. But I think it's an underutilized opportunity, underutilized by me. I don't know what my predecessors did, but we need to get some more memberships confirmed on that. And the appointments are made by the Senate, the governor, and the speaker. I don't know where the vacancies are, but stay tuned. Certainly reach out to me in a month or so and ask where that is. I would love to hear from the public on issues that are important to them. And if anybody wants further ideas on how to engage on a particular issue, email me. I'm happy to provide some guidance. Public engagement is so important.
Linda, will that committee hold public meetings, or?
Oh yes, all
okay.
public with minutes. We'll post the minutes. There's a statutory site. I can share that with people if they're interested in it. I think it's a great opportunity to hear from the public what's important to them, from all members of the public. Originally, that Ratepayers Advisory Committee was heard a lot of low-income ratepayer issues, and I should say low and moderate income ratepayer issues, but I think that that committee can address all kinds of issues, and I would love to hear from the public and get some feedback on what they think of solar, how are we doing in energy efficiency, what they think of their water utility. It's not limited to just a narrow focus of electricity and gas.
Well, that was a great segue into a water utility question that I have.
Okay.
Brown. What issue keeps you up at night regarding the water utilities?
Water utilities, I would say lead issues in water pipes has been a concern. The Department of Health is involved on some of those issues. Utilities have done a very good job, and this is more in inner city, the urban areas, of changing out pipes that were lead-based pipes with newer pipes. But what still remains are connections to homes and lead in the homes. So water is, as you can imagine, is very thoroughly tested regularly to ensure there's no lead in there, or very extremely low traces of lead. And the issue is, where is that lead coming from? Regulators think or believe that it's these connections to homes. So I know, and I don't want to call out any particular water utility, but there are programs to help support financing, low interest, no interest loans to change out those connections and make sure that we have safe, clean water. That keeps me up at night, keeping the lead out of the water. And I would say that the utilities we regulate are on top of this issue. We are on top of this issue, and we will continue to be on top of this issue till we see no traces of lead in water. That's a really good question.
So here's another question from Marcia. Does government service offer better pay equity for women?
I think, and this may be controversial, I think government service underpays everybody, men, women, everybody. I don't know enough about private. Shauna's smiling, she's a government worker too. I think we in state government do it because we love the work. Or I should speak for me, we love being engaged. We feel we make a difference. We get to work on really interesting, engaging, challenging, and hard issues. I mean, it's hard to move a clean energy agenda in a cost-effective and affordable way. It's hard to address low-income ratepayers. Issues. It's hard to get lead out of water and keep it out and figure out what's causing it. You go into public service knowing that, I think. So you really aren't looking at it from the lens of I could be making more money somewhere else. You could go somewhere else. So I feel I've been paid sufficiently to stay engaged and do my job and raise my family, or I would have made the decision to leave. I can't really compare it to private industry because I have not worked sufficiently in private industry. That didn't really answer the question, but
Okay.
I don't have the information for that.
So here's a COVID-related question.
Yes.
The pandemic has highlighted some serious racial and economic disparities in the United States and in the clean energy field. How has your job as a ratepayer advocate changed in the past couple of months because of this?
Oh, certainly. Another great question. We're looking at equity. I answered the question earlier: cost effectiveness, bill impacts, and equity. And the issue with equity now is, how do you define it? Equity means different things with different issues and different stakeholders. And it's important that you all have a common understanding of what is the equity issue you're trying to address. We are looking at, I think equity is going to be more of part of the conversation on every issue. We look at it in bigger issues. I think now we will be defining it and addressing it. And equity is, I see equity in a couple of different ways, if you want me to define it in a few ways. One is a lot of things we do have bill impacts. Impacts meaning our bills are going up. And to the extent we are adding costs to bills, that burdens disproportionately low and moderate income ratepayers more. And we have to be mindful of that as we craft these programs. What are the benefits, who's benefiting, and who are we burdening, and what's the, is it proportional? So equity is in terms of the bill burdens. For that low income and moderate income ratepayers are burdened more. Equity is also who gets to participate in programs. We have some fabulous programs here in Rhode Island. We want to make sure that the programs we have are accessible to all. So how do you do that? You have to first identify what the obstacles are. For example, Sean has been working very, very hard on solar programs. How do we assist low income ratepayers and moderate income ratepayers to participate in these programs? And the first thing she did was get a lot of people around the table who are interested in that. And then you first have to talk about the obstacles and address those. And Sean is working on that, and we are a partner in that. We're at the table looking at equity. So equity in participation, equity in burdens. And then I would say equity also starts with who is at the table. Who are you inviting? Who are your stakeholders? Are they a diverse group? Are you bringing in everybody's voice? And then when you bring everybody to the table, does everybody get a chance to speak their voice? Are you ensuring that everybody feels they have an opportunity to speak and that their voice is valid and will be heard. Now, we can't address everything and we can't fix everything. A lot of what we do are competing interests, but everybody's voice needs to be heard. So yes, I would say COVID and the other issues have certainly changed in a very short period of time the lens on how I see things. And I am, the Ratepayer Advisory Board is a priority. We need to get more voices. We need to have diversity. A voice is another definition of equity.
Okay, so we're gonna switch gears back to a personal question. So what's the biggest challenge you have faced during your career so far?
I would say one of the biggest challenges is when I worked in private practice for a couple of years, and then I worked in the AG's office, and I left that fabulous job to stay home and raise our family. And that was a decision my husband and I made. I personally think that a working mom, the best decision is the one that works for her. Stay at home, work part-time, work full-time. My decision was to stay home. It was very hard for me to transition back to working. One, I had a family accustomed to me being around all the time, so I had to work through those, make them a little more independent. And also my skills were rusty. The first memo, I was working at the State House, I was working on a big memo, and it almost brought me to tears because I was struggling to find the words to write, which, as you could tell, finding words is generally not an issue for me. But I just powered through it. So for me, the biggest challenge was entering the workforce again. And I did it because an opportunity came before me and I felt I wasn't ready, but I said, it's engaging, interesting work. I like policy. Let me try it. So that was the biggest challenge. And I'm very glad I got over that because it was the right decision to get back in working. And of course your skills are rusty. You haven't used them in a while. So it took a while, but here I am.
I'm very glad that you were there. It worked out really well for many of us in the public sector.
I was very surprised at how challenging it was to jump back in.
So here's a Rhode Island specific question. So what's the best part about working in Rhode Island?
Oh, the best part about working in Rhode Island is we're so small. You get to know everybody. You have an issue you want to address and identify obstacles, and you want to have a diverse group of stakeholders. You probably know all their phone numbers. You can easily convene groups. We can get stuff done in this state. We can move things along because we're small. And we get to know each other and we get to have a good professional working relationship with a lot of people. I would say that's probably the best thing about working in Rhode Island. The other best thing is it's a small state and I'm such a Rhode Islander, so I don't have to travel far. The State House is 15 minutes down the road. I live 20 minutes from where I work. We are all accessible through the computer and we are all accessible in person. And I would say a lot of Rhode Islanders or a lot of the people I work with share that view. Not about not traveling far, about how we all know each other and we can work together to accomplish challenging goals.
Great. So one more personal question before we transition back to some of the work-related ones. How did you decide that law school was the right path for you?
Well, I was a government major and I focused on American government, and we looked at a lot of policies and you study a lot of things. And I can remember thinking, wow, that's an awful policy. Who would ever want that? Like, that's terrible. And you look at different things. And then when I started working at the State House, I learned about collaboration, that if you get people to agree or at least live with something, you can move things forward, and you might not all like it. So you learn that maybe a policy gets passed the way it does because you're accounting for many various interests. But I wanted to understand not just the laws and how they worked, but how you passed laws, what went into the laws, and how you can affect change. So for me, law school was a good fit, very good fit.
Why Vermont? And I'm just adding that question personally because I'm curious.
Well, so you had said I went to school in New Hampshire. I loved living there. I saw Vermont Law School. It's a very small law school. It is ironically an environmental law school. And it just was a great place to go to school. Very rural, very small. You knew all your professors, you knew all the students in your class. And I ironically only took one environmental class on, it was on the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. And it was tedious and I didn't like it. And I thought, if this is what environmental work is about, I want nothing to do with it. And I would say there are aspects of what we do is tedious, but because we see a bigger picture or we're motivated by other policies, you can work through those tedious issues. But I just love the area. And I probably would have stayed in Vermont, but it's so small that the economy at the time just couldn't support all the lawyers that graduate. And I had a really good job in Rhode Island, and I came home.
That's great. So we've gotten a question, anonymous question about the thermal sector report that Brattle did and
Yes.
OER published a couple months ago. So the question is, I'll read the whole thing. A recent study completed by the Brattle Group recommended Rhode Island pursue an all of the above approach to decarbonizing the heating sector to meet the state goals. Mm-hmm. Can you share any thoughts on how this study and its recommendations are being looked at and potentially applied?
Well, we have some work streams. Those will be public at some point. We are working, in fact, just this week, I was looking at a thermal work stream headed up by your colleague at OER, Carrie Gill. And Carrie has brought people to the table to look at how we can implement some of those recommendations. We're in the early stages right now. I do want to say that report that said, look at all options, don't walk away from options. The report concluded that because there was no clear path. When I was part of the study that Brattle did, we were at the table, the division, and there's no clear path. Should we electrify everything? Should we use hydrogen or renewable gas and decarbonize in that way, a renewable fuel? Or should we, is it energy efficiency and weatherization and other approaches, or a combination of all those? And the report concluded, at this time, we just can't say. So let's not abandon the gas pipelines. It may be filled with renewable gas at some point. Let's preserve our options and pursue all these options till there's a clear path forward of which one is the most cost effective, which one provides the most benefits for Rhode Islanders. And there are different pros and cons, and I'm happy to follow up with anyone who wants a further dive into that. But electrification has pros and cons, and so does renewable gas. And the report just said, don't walk away from either just yet. But one of the big takeaways from that report was continue to pursue energy efficiency, weatherization options. So we're beginning a work stream headed by OER, Carrie Gill, who's wonderful and engaging and positive, and she's bringing people to the table to look at options. And you can certainly email me if you want to know more about it, or reach out to Carrie Gill. That's appropriate for me to tell people to reach out to another. It's a good question. The clean energy future isn't just electric, it's gas. We have to look at both forms of energy.
The thermal report is actually on OER's website, and if I can find it quickly, I will try to chat it to the group here in case anybody else wants to take a look at it.
Oh, very good, Shauna, very good.
So while I'm looking for that, Linda, I have another water question for you. Actually, it's more a gas question. I presume, like most of New England, Rhode Island has aging gas pipeline infrastructure. Does Rhode Island have a program to replace cast iron and bare steel gas pipelines?
Oh, we have a terrific gas, it's a gas replacement program that is, oh, I wish I had the figure. We replace a significant amount of gas pipeline every single year. We've been doing this for years. It's prioritized by safety. It's all around safety and looking at National Grid tests their pipes and identifies the ones that have gas leaks, small ones, not dangerous or prone to or could have leaks. And that is an incredibly efficient, productive way to address climate change concerns by replacing these pipes. In addition to that, if a municipality has a road open, working on other utilities or fixing a road or addressing a concern where the road is open, National Grid will come in if those pipes at some point need to be replaced and prioritize that, because the cost of opening up the whole road is already been absorbed by the municipality. So National Grid will come in and replace those. We have a very robust, strong pipeline replacement program that is limited only by the amount of workers who can get the work done. It is impressive, and it's part of our infrastructure, safety, and reliability docket. It's an important part of maintaining the infrastructure of the gas system, and it is focused on safety first and reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Great. Thanks for that. Definitely gas is something that doesn't get a lot of attention. So knowledgeable people about gas in Rhode Island are few and far between.
Yes.
Let's switch over to another personal question. If you could go back in time and give yourself some advice before you entered law school or college, what would it be?
Oh, law school, definitely. I would relax a little more and ski a little more. I went to school in Vermont, great skiing opportunities. I skied, I had old skis. I had a lot of fun. I think I'd be where I am today if I had skied maybe a few more days a week, an hour or two here or there. And I think, in life in general, as you get older, the work will get done. I always looked for the opportunity and took the opportunity for my professional career. I would say focus also on the opportunities to have fun with your family, have fun with your friends.
Where's your favorite place to ski?
Well, I like Sunday River. I like Sunapee, Loon Mountain. Loon Mountain, very much so. I like a nice cruising run at a nice slow speed. I ski another day. I don't tear it up, but I truly enjoy it.
Okay. So another advice question. What advice would you give to any young professional who just graduated from school?
Oh, this is tough because during the COVID era, the advice would be if you get it, find a job, take it. And I would say there's really no mistake. So a couple of things. One is, in a perfect world, pursue what you're interested in. I tell my kids, if working hard isn't hard work if you have a passion for it. And that's not taking away from how hard you're working. It's just you're passionate about it. So your days go by fast. Pursue what interests you and where you find what is meaningful to you. For me, that's making a difference in the energy world. But I would also say your first job, there are no mistakes. You'll find whether you like what you're doing or not, and that's great information either way. My son just graduated from college, and he studied this summer. He was doing something, and now he's looking for a job, and he's nervous and worried. He doesn't have a job. He's not employed. And I told him, well, enjoy the time off you have now. You will find something. You have to relax a little. So pursue what interests you. If it's, and gives you meaning and a purpose in an ideal world. In a COVID world, I told my son, take the first job you get.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much both sides of the spectrum here. And I say take whatever job you get because there are no mistakes. You're young, you'll learn skills, and you'll learn what you do and don't like. You may stay in that job forever. You may need to leave after a year.
So Weezy submitted a question. It's a great question, and I can probably help you answer it.
Oh no, I'm worried.
So Governor Raimondo signed an executive order to power the state by 100% renewable energy by 2030. I know the state is analyzing this now, but are there any insights or sneak peeks at this stage?
Well, there's nothing sneaky about it. We hold public workshops. Please come. That's the equity issue. Participate, hear about it. Shauna, I think you schedule those, don't you? OER has it on their website. So the 100% renewable energy is a very exciting initiative. From the ratepayer advocate point of view, it's moving a green agenda, and we're doing it focused on making it cost effective and capturing all the benefits we can, looking at solar and other renewable resources, looking at the most cost effective approach to reach that. So that's the exciting part for me. I know we've held 1 or 2 public workshops, and when I say we, OER does all of it. I just show up. There has been great interest in it, great comments on that. I encourage everybody listening to this to participate. I know OER afterwards did a study of who participated in the last 100% renewable, and they found that the majority, a slim majority, were older white males, right? Am I right about that? So come to the 100% renewables initiative. You can hear how Brattle is approaching this and working with the agencies and other stakeholders, and your voice is very important. I know I could speak for OER on this, that we hold these public workshops for a reason. We look forward to them to hear what everyone thinks. We sometimes miss things, and that adds to the report, and it's also nice to hear the public perspective. But
so the next 100% renewable meeting will be on September 29th at 9 a.m. And I believe the link to registration is on the NEWIEE calendar of events. So if anybody wants to check it out.
I think it's also on the OER website, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a great question, Weezy.
Great. All right, and I think this is going to bring us to our last question. Just looking at the time here. So the last question that we have for Linda today is, what is the best piece of professional advice that you've been given?
Take the opportunity. So I gave this advice, but someone gave it to me. Take the opportunity when it presents itself, even if it's inconvenient, even if you're not ready to jump back in the working world, but there's an opportunity, or you're working part-time and the position that's really exciting is full-time, or you feel you might not have the skill set to do it, take it if it's an opportunity. That's how I have, that's how my career is unfolded. I've taken opportunities as they've come along, not always with great timing, but always with, if I looked at something and said, wow, that looks really interesting, I would love to do that work. I apply. Sometimes I get the job, sometimes I don't, but take the opportunity whenever it presents itself.
Great. Well, we've actually run through every single question that folks submitted during the hour that we were here together, and then questions that we had prepared in advance. So this brings us to the end, and it was a great conversation, Linda. Thank you. And I hope to see many of you at future AMA events or other NEWIEE events in the future. So I hope
And
everybody
thank
has
you.
a good night.
Yes, and thank you to NEWIEE for hosting this and Shauna for moderating it for me, asking the questions.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.